space is never truly silent. There's always the hum of the engines, the faint vibration of recycled air moving through vents, or the distant crackle of the comms. But as our shuttle approached the drifting station, there was nothing, no beacon, no signal, no sign of power, just a massive silhouette carved against the backdrop of scattered stars. We shouldn't have gone closer. Every protocol screamed against it. But curiosity is stronger than caution when you're millions of miles from Earth, tasked with finding what's out there. Are we really doing this? Lieutenant Ramos asked, his voice sharp in my earpiece. His gloved hands tightened around the control stick as the docking clamps extended. We're doing this, I replied. My voice carried a calmness I didn't feel. I was Captain Marroquin, and my orders were to investigate any derelict structures. That's what we told ourselves, anyway. The truth was simpler. We wanted to know who, or what, had built something this colossal. The station floated like a black monolith, its structure alien in design. Smooth arcs bent into impossible angles, glowing faintly with dying blue veins of energy. The closer we came, the more it felt like the station was watching us. When the docking clamps finally locked with a deep, echoing thud, the silence grew heavier, like the air had thickened. We exchanged uneasy glances through our helmets. Power's minimal, said Dr. Suresh, our science officer, scanning the readings. But life support seems stable. At least inside, stable. That was good enough. We cycled the airlock and the doors opened with a hiss. Darkness greeted us, vast and unmoving, broken only by the faint glow of our suit lamps. I stepped inside first. The air smelled sterile, but old, like a tomb sealed for centuries. Our footsteps echoed as if the station had been waiting for us. And then we saw it. A vast chamber stretched before us, its walls lined with towering glass cases. Inside each case stood figures, some alien, some unrecognizable, and some horrifyingly familiar. Are those displays? Whispered Ramos. They were hundreds of them. Creatures, species, preserved in mid-motion. Some frozen in what looked like terror, others posed as if they'd been plucked from life without warning. It was a museum of extinction. Suresh's light swept across the chamber until it froze on one display at the far end. His breath caught. Morale, look at this one. I turned, and my stomach turned to ice. The figure inside wasn't alien. It wasn't some strange creature from another world. It was human. A man perfectly preserved, dressed in clothing unmistakably Earth-made. His eyes were wide, his mouth open as if caught in a silent scream. Beneath the case, etched in alien symbols, a translation shimmered on our visor hoodies. The system AI did its work, converting it into English. Extinct species Homo sapiens. Status? Terminated. My heart hammered against my chest. That's impossible. We're alive. We're here. One by one, our light swept over more cases, and we saw them. Men, women, children, preserved, displayed, cataloged like relics of a species long gone. But we're not extinct, Ramos stammered. His voice cracked, trying to find reason where there was none. We're not. Then why are we here? Dr. Suresh whispered, his trembling hand pressed against the glass, as though touching the preserved man might make him vanish. For a moment, the silence of the station felt absolute, pressing down on us like a weight. We were intruders in a mausoleum that claimed our species no longer existed. And then, faintly from deeper within the station, something moved. The sound was soft, almost delicate, like the scrape of metal on metal. We froze. My pulse quickened as I lifted my scanner, sweeping the air. Life signs? I asked. The scanner flickered, static, and then a blip. Movement, not human. Not recorded in our database. It was coming closer. Back to the ship. Ramos urged, his hand already hovering over his sidearm. I shook my head. No. We need to know. The scraping grew louder, echoing through the chamber. Something alive was here. Something that belonged in this museum of the dead. I tightened my grip on my weapon, staring into the dark corridors ahead. The preserved human behind the glass seemed to stare back at me, his frozen eyes pleading. Extinct. Terminated. But we were still alive. For now. The scraping sound faded, swallowed by the darkness of the corridor ahead. My breath fogged against the inside of my visor, even though the temperature was regulated. The fear wasn't in the air. It was inside me, gnawing. Ramos broke the silence first. Captain, I don't like this. We've seen enough. Let's grab what data we can and leave. But even as he spoke, none of us moved toward the airlock. We were frozen, like the very figures behind the glass. Rows upon rows of them stared back at us, each one perfectly preserved. Grotesque echoes of life trapped at the edge of death. Dr. Suresh leaned closer to one of the cases. his helmet lamp illuminating the figure inside. A woman, human, her hair tied back in a style I'd seen on Earth 100 times. A simple dress, nothing alien about her. She could have been pulled from a street corner in New York or Delhi. Look at the detail, he murmured. These aren't reconstructions. This is preservation, cryostasis, maybe, or something far more advanced. But how? Ramos demanded. There's no way aliens could have. He stopped himself, but I knew what he was thinking. No way they could have gotten humans out here without us knowing. Unless they hadn't. I stepped closer to the display, reading the translated inscription again: extinct species Homo sapiens. Status: terminated. The word terminated pulsed faintly, as if the system was active, alive, still watching. Dr. Suresh's scanner beeped softly. Mara, you need to see this. He turned the display toward me. The device showed a series of alien glyphs streaming across the screen, translating into English in jagged bursts. The text was part of a record, cataloged, preserved at final moments, for study, for memory, for order. Final moments. Ramos repeated. He shook his head. No, that doesn't make sense. We're alive. Earth's alive. 7 billion people breathing and eating and fighting back home. This is some kind of mistake. But my gut twisted. Mistakes didn't feel this intentional. We moved further into the chamber. The light from our suits cast long, moving shadows across the walls. The figures behind the glass seemed to shift as we passed, their frozen eyes following. Not all of them were human. Some displays held creatures we didn't recognize. Towering insectoid beings, scaled quadrupeds, fragile, winged life forms that looked too delicate to ever survive. Every species bore the same inscription beneath their cases: extinct. Terminated. God. Ramos whispered. This is a graveyard. No. Dr. Suresh corrected him softly. It's a museum. I stopped in front of another case, this one larger, stretching floor to ceiling. Inside was a human family, a man, a woman, and a small child clutched between them. Their faces frozen in terror, as if something had swept them into this moment without warning. The child's small hand was pressed outward, almost reaching for me. I felt my throat tighten. This wasn't random. These weren't just artifacts, these were lives ripped out of time. Mara. Dr. Suresh said suddenly, his voice sharp. Look at this. He pointed to a console embedded in the floor before the family's display. Unlike the dead panels we'd seen so far, this one glowed faintly. I knelt, brushing my glove across its smooth surface. The glyph shifted, reacting to our presence. The translation scrolled across my visor: specimen origin Sol 3, sector spiral arm 49B, acquisition timestamp. Pending. Ramos echoed, his voice hollow. Dr. Suresh's eyes went wide behind his visor. That means it hasn't happened yet. They're cataloging humans in advance. My stomach dropped. These weren't relics from our past. They were warnings of our future. Before I could respond, the scraping sound returned. Louder this time. Closer. All three of us snapped around, our helmet lamps slicing through the black corridor beyond the chamber. Something moved in the shadows. Tall, angular, limbs too long to be natural. It didn't walk so much as glide, its shape bending unnaturally with each step. Ramos raised his weapon. Contact. Hold your fire. I ordered, though my own hand hovered near my sidearm. The last thing we needed was to trigger whatever defenses this place had. The figure stopped just outside the reach of our lights. Its surface gleamed faintly, metallic and organic all at once. Then, slowly, it tilted its head, a gesture unmistakably deliberate. My visor translated the sound that followed. Not words exactly, but something close. Specimens arrived early. A chill ran through me. Because it didn't sound surprised. It sounded pleased. The figure stepped into the light. Its body was impossibly tall, nearly 3 meters, its limbs jointed in ways that made my stomach twist. A surface of obsidian plates shifted and clicked softly with every motion, as though its skin was alive. Its face, if you could call it that, was a mask of smooth black, broken only by a single vertical slit that pulsed faintly with blue light. Dr. Suresh whispered, "It's observing us." The creature tilted its head again, that faint blue light scanning over each of us. My visor filled with static, and then, impossibly, words appeared across the HUD: specimens unarchived. Correction required. Correction, Ramos hissed. What the hell does that mean? The creature raised one elongated hand. For a moment I thought it was a threat, but instead the air shimmered, and a holographic display flickered into existence between us. It showed Earth, unmistakably Earth, spinning slowly in the void. But it wasn't the Earth we knew. Vast scars split across its continents. Cities burned like embers in the dark. Whole coastlines had vanished beneath rising seas. The hologram glitched, fast forwarding until Earth itself fractured, swallowed in silence. My stomach nodded. This wasn't history. This was prophecy. Suresh's hands trembled as he recorded the feed. It's a timeline, a prediction of humanity's extinction. The curator, that's what my mind began to call it, extended its arm again. A new display opened, showing rows of alien symbols with translations beneath: species Homo sapiens, status termination scheduled, preservation in progress, scheduled. Ramos swore under his breath. This thing thinks it knows when we're going extinct. Who the hell gave it permission? Not permission, I said slowly, eyes locked on the curator. This is its function. It catalogs, it preserves. It archives life before it disappears. Dr. Suresh shook his head violently. No, you don't understand. This doesn't just predict, it enforces. That's why every species in those cases is terminated. It's not recording death, it's delivering it. The thought hit like a fist. This wasn't just a museum, it was a grave maker. The curator moved closer, its long limbs gliding soundlessly across the floor. Its slit of blue light widened, glowing brighter, scanning over us. My suit sensors went haywire, warning of interference. Captain Ramos warned, weapon raised. I lifted my hand, stopping him. We fire, we die hold. The curator paused before me. My own reflection warped across its obsidian surface. And then a voice filled my helmet, not alien, not robotic. A voice I recognized, my voice. Marrakeen, specimen confirmed. My blood turned to ice. How do you know my name? The curator tilted its head. Another hologram flickered into life beside it. My face appeared, clear as day, frozen in a moment I didn't recognize. I was inside one of the cases. My eyes wide, my hand pressed against glass, just like the family we had seen earlier. No, I whispered, stumbling back. Ramos swore, shoving his gun forward. That's not real. That's a trick. But Dr. Suresh's voice was shaking. It's not a trick. It's already cataloged us. The curator's slit of light pulsed, almost like a heartbeat. Correction required. Archive incomplete. The scraping sound echoed again, but this time it came from above. We looked up. The ceiling shifted, panels opening to reveal suspended pods, hundreds of them, descending slowly into the chamber. Each pod gleamed with frost. Inside, vague outlines of human forms pressed against the glass. Ramos muttered, "Oh my God, there's more of us." But as the pods lowered, I realized the truth. They weren't more of us. They were us. Exact copies. Duplicates of our bodies, frozen in silent screams. One of the pods turned, and I locked eyes with myself. Mara. Dr. Suresh gasped. It's already archived our deaths. My chest tightened, every instinct screaming to run. But the air around us seemed heavier now, as if the station itself was sealing shut. The curator raised its hand again. The holographic Earth fractured once more, the countdown accelerating. Humanity. Days remaining, 423. The numbers pulsed bright and final. Ramos aimed his weapon directly at the curator. Captain, say the word. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something in me hesitated. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't just about us. It wasn't about three explorers trapped in a nightmare. This was about the whole of humanity. And if the curator was right, humanity was already on the clock. The number 423 glowed in my visor like a curse. 423 days. That's all humanity had left if the curator's archive was right. Ramos's knuckles whitened around his weapon. Captain, permission to fire. Right now. Before this thing does whatever the hell it's planning. Stop, I ordered, though my voice cracked under the weight of panic. If it wanted us dead, we already would be. Think, Ramos. Shooting it won't stop that. I pointed upward, at the endless rows of pods descending from the ceiling. Each one carried a frozen human face. Ours, strangers, maybe even people who hadn't died yet. The sight was suffocating, like staring into 1,000 coffins hanging above us. Dr. Suresh swallowed hard. We need to understand what it's doing. If this station enforces extinction, maybe we can find a way to shut it down, to break the cycle. And if we can't, Ramos snapped. You saw that number. That's a death sentence. For everyone. The curator remained motionless, its glowing slit fixed on us. Then, with a sound like grinding metal, it gestured toward the far wall. Panels hissed open, revealing another chamber beyond. Specimens. The translated voice echoed. Observe final record. I hesitated. Every nerve screamed not to follow, but we had no choice. If there was even a chance this thing could be stopped, we needed to know how it worked. We moved carefully into the next chamber. This one was smaller, circular, and lined with massive transparent cylinders. Inside each floated something unlike the preserved figures in the museum. These were recordings. Holograms flickered to life within the liquid, playing out scenes of annihilation. A world of winged creatures engulfed in firestorms. An insectoid civilization crushed beneath collapsing towers. A species of glowing aquatic beings frozen as their oceans boiled away. And then, Earth. The holograms showed cities we recognized: New York, London, Mumbai, Tokyo. Explosions rippled across the skylines. Storms devoured coastlines. Skies went dark, thick with silence. Each replay ended with the same stillness, the same emptiness. Dr. Suresh whispered, "Doesn't just preserve, it replays. Over and over, like it's curating death itself." Ramos spat the words. "So what? It's a collector of corpses." "No," Suresh said, shaking his head. "It's worse. It's a curator of inevitability. To it, extinction isn't tragedy, it's order." The curator stepped closer, its presence filling the chamber. Its voice cut through our helmets. "Entropy must be archived. Chaos must be contained." I clenched my fists. "You're saying it's inevitable? That we're doomed no matter what we do?" "Correction," the voice intoned. "Inevitability is engineered." The words echoed in my skull. Engineered. It wasn't just predicting extinction. It was orchestrating it. "That's it," Ramos growled. "We're ending this." He leveled his weapon at the curator's chest. "Ramos, don't." I started, but it was too late. The shot thundered through the chamber, a bolt of plasma striking dead center. The blast rippled across the curator's surface like water disturbed by a stone, absorbed into its obsidian plating. The creature didn't flinch, it didn't move. Then, slowly, it tilted its head toward Ramos. The pods above us shifted, their glass cracking with sharp pops. One by one, the frozen figures inside twitched. Eyes flicked open, hands pressed against the glass. But they weren't alive. Their movements were jerky, unnatural, like puppets pulled by unseen strings. "Oh my God," Suresh gasped. "It's using them." The pods burst open, shards raining down as preserved bodies spilled into the chamber. Men, women, children, duplicates of us, strangers, hundreds of them, lurched forward. Their eyes glowed faint blue, the same as the curator's slit. "Captain," Ramos shouted, firing again. His plasma bolts tore through the first wave, but more spilled from the pods, relentless, endless. "Fall back," I ordered, pulling Suresh by the arm. We stumbled into the museum chamber, frozen exhibits staring silently as the duplicates pursued. The sound of shattering glass roared behind us, every step echoing with inhuman shrieks. "Where the hell do we go?" Ramos demanded. I scanned the chamber, my light cutting across alien glyphs etched into the walls. There, a narrow passage leading deeper into the station. I pointed. That way, we sprinted, boots pounding the floor, as the sound of pursuit grew louder. I risked one last glance over my shoulder. The curator hadn't moved. It stood silently, watching as its army of preserved humans chased us into the dark, and as we ran, the number in my visor ticked down again. 423, 422. Our boots slammed against the metal floor as we tore down the corridor, the echo of pursuit rattling in my ears. The duplicates shrieked behind us, their voices uncanny. Too human, yet stripped of all humanity. "Left," I shouted, pointing toward a faintly glowing archway. Ramos and Dr. Suresh followed, plasma bolts flashing as Ramos fired back at the horde. Bodies fell, but each one replaced itself with another spilling out of the shattered pods. The passage bent sharply downward, spiraling like the inside of a seashell. The air grew thicker, humming faintly with energy. I felt it before I saw it. A deep vibration in my bones, like the station itself had a pulse. We stumbled into a vast chamber, and for a moment the sight stole my breath. At the center stood a massive, pulsing construct, a sphere of black stone veined with glowing blue, suspended above the floor by cables of light. Energy radiated from it in waves, rippling the air. Around the base of the sphere, consoles floated in perfect circles, humming with alien glyphs. "The core," Dr. Suresh breathed. His eyes were wide with awe. "This must be the heart of the station. The source of its power," Ramos growled. "Good. Then we blow it to hell and end this nightmare." "No," Suresh snapped, more force in his voice than I'd ever heard. "You don't understand. If this station is cataloging extinction events across the galaxy, then destroying it might wipe out everything it holds. All the knowledge of every species it's recorded." "Good," Ramos spat. "Who cares about its collection? It's killing us. It's planning to kill everyone." Suresh shook his head. "Knowledge like this can't just be erased. If we could access it, we might learn how to prevent what's coming, maybe even stop the cycle entirely. The two of them turned to me. As always, the decision fell to the captain. My chest tightened under the weight of it. Destroy the core and stop the curator, maybe, or access it and risk falling into its trap. Before I could speak, the curator's voice filled the chamber. Specimens. Out of order. Return to archive. We spun. The curator glided silently into the chamber, its obsidian surface glowing faintly in the core's light. Behind it, the horde of duplicates poured in, their glassy eyes fixed on us. Ramos raised his weapon again. Captain, we don't have time to debate. We either fight or we fry. Wait, I said, my gaze locked on the curator. Why us? Why are you doing this? The creature tilted its head, the blue slit pulsing as if considering. Entropy must be contained. Disorder eradicated. Preservation requires sacrifice. You're manufacturing extinction. I said, voice low but steady, not recording it. You're deciding who lives and dies. The curator's voice sharpened. All species end. Order is inevitable. We accelerate the process. Why? Suresh demanded. His voice cracked. Why accelerate it? Why not let life run its course? The answer came like a knife. Because chaos spreads. Life contaminates. Unchecked, it destroys balance. You are contamination. The words hit harder than any weapon. To it, humanity wasn't special. We weren't unique. We were bacteria in a petri dish awaiting disposal. The duplicates surged forward shrieking. Ramos fired wildly, the chamber lighting up with bursts of plasma. Captain, he shouted, make the call. I spun towards Suresh. Can you access it? He hesitated only a second before nodding. If I can interface with the core's energy lattice, maybe. But I'll need time. Do it, I said. Ramos cursed under his breath. We don't have time. We'll make time. I snapped. Suresh dashed to one of the floating consoles, his fingers flying across the alien glyphs. Streams of symbols filled the air, twisting and shifting as the console recognized his input. The duplicates closed in. Ramos and I formed a defensive line, firing shot after shot. Each time one fell, two more took its place. Their faces, our faces, twisted in jerky, unnatural motions, eyes burning blue. Mara! Suresh called out, his voice frantic. I'm in. But the system's fighting me. It knows what I'm doing. Then work faster. Ramos barked, blasting a duplicate that lunged too close. The curator moved closer, its presence suffocating. The core behind it pulsed brighter, the chamber vibrating like the inside of a collapsing star. Correction required. It intuned. Termination imminent. Suddenly, my visor flashed red. The countdown ticked again, 422, 421. Dr. Suresh's voice cut through the alarms. Captain, if I keep going, I can override its extinction directive, but it'll mean exposing myself directly to the core's energy. If I fail, his words were drowned by the shrieks of the horde as they surged forward. Ramos shoved me aside, firing until his weapon overheated. We're out of time, Captain. Decide! The curator loomed above us, its voice calm against the chaos. All specimens returned to archive. Resistance is irrelevant. But resistance was all we had left. The chamber shook like a living heart, every pulse of the core rattling my bones. Blue light blood across the walls, washing over Ramos, Dr. Suresh, and the advancing horde of duplicates. Their glassy eyes reflected our every move, like predators mimicking prey. Dr. Suresh's fingers flew across the alien glyphs, his voice ragged. I can rewrite the directive. Captain, I can stop the extinction cycle, but it'll take another minute. Just a minute, Ramos swore, his rifle glowing hot in his hands. We don't have a minute. They're already on top of us. A duplicate lunged. I slammed the butt of my weapon into its jaw, bones cracking like brittle glass. It collapsed, writhing unnaturally before pulling itself upright again. They didn't feel pain. They didn't stop. Captain, Ramos roared over the din. We blow the core. We end this right now? No, Suresh shouted. If you destroy it, you erase everything. Every record of every species that's ever lived. This isn't just survival, it's knowledge. It's hope. Hope doesn't matter if we're dead. Ramos snapped. Both men turned to me. The decision had become a blade at my throat. Behind them, the curator glided closer, its obsidian surface flickering with runes. Its voice cut through the chaos like a sermon. Specimens corrupted. Disorder spreading. Preservation requires termination. I leveled my weapon at the advancing duplicates. Suresh, if you're wrong. I'm not wrong. His voice cracked. Sweat streamed down his face as he forced the console to respond. This isn't just about us, Captain. This station is rewriting the galaxy's history in its own image. If we walk away with nothing, the lie wins. My hands trembled. The countdown in my visor ticked down again. 421, 420. Every second lost was another nail in humanity's coffin. Ramos grabbed my arm, his voice low, desperate. Mara, listen to me. You can't gamble on this. Not with billions of lives at stake. We plant charges, we run, we end it clean? Captain. Suresh pleaded. I can't hold the lattice much longer. If you want truth, if you want a future, you have to let me finish. The curator's form loomed larger, its blue slit burning like an eye. Choice irrelevant, termination inevitable. And then, silence. The horde stopped mid-step, frozen like statues. Every duplicate's head turned at once, their empty eyes snapping toward the curator. Something had changed. Suresh gasped, his hands still on the console. It's listening. Captain, it's routing control back through the core. If I can just... The curator's voice deepened, reverberating like the toll of a bell. Specimen Mara Hale, Captain. Decision acknowledged. Proceed. The words chilled me to the marrow. It knew my name and had been watching. Waiting, I raised my rifle, though my arms felt like lead. What do you want from me? Confirmation, it said. Extinction or preservation, choose. But for the first time, I realized the curator wasn't just cataloging us. It was testing us, waiting to see what decision we'd make, as if our survival hinged not on strength but judgment. Ramos snarled. Don't listen to it. It's playing with us, Captain. You know what has to be done? Suresh's voice cracked with urgency. Mara, this is the only chance we'll ever have to turn the tide. If I rewrite the directive, the curator won't be able to destroy us. Humanity won't just survive, will matter. I looked at Ramos, at Suresh, at the horde of hollow-eyed copies, and then at the core, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. Extinction or preservation. The choice burned through me. I lowered my weapon slowly. Suresh, finish it. Ramos exploded. Are you insane? He shoved me back, his face twisted in fury. You're gambling the entire species on one scientist's hunch. I shoved him off, my voice steel. And you're ready to erase the truth of 1,000 civilizations because you're scared. We're not here just to survive, Ramos. We're here to be remembered. Suresh's console flared, symbols spinning into the air. He cried out, his body jerking as energy surged up his arms. Blue veins spiderwebbed across his skin, glowing like fire under glass. I've got it! He shouted, though his voice was raw with pain. I can rewrite it. But it's tearing me apart. The curator's head tilted, its voice almost curious. Specimen resists termination. Flawed but adaptive. The core pulsed brighter, the chamber rattling violently. And then, betrayal. Ramos raised his rifle, not at the horde, but at Suresh. Mara, I'm sorry, he said, his voice flat, almost cold. But I can't let him finish. The weapon hummed as it charged. Ramos, I screamed, raising mine in return. The chamber became a standoff, humanity's fate hanging on a trigger pull. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if the real enemy was the curator or ourselves. Now we've hit the betrayal twist. Suresh is nearly killing himself to rewrite the directive. Ramos refuses to trust him, ready to shoot. The curator forces Mara to make the choice. The chamber thrummed with energy, the core blazing so brightly it cast shadows that seemed alive. The horde of duplicates stood frozen in eerie silence, like mannequins waiting for their cue. Only the three of us moved, me, Ramos with his rifle leveled, and Suresh trembling against the console, veins glowing like molten cracks beneath his skin. Ramos, don't. My voice cracked across the chamber, sharper than my weapon's sights. Put it down. His eyes locked on mine, wild but steady, like a man who had already made peace with his choice. Mara, you know I'm right. That thing. He jabbed his weapon toward Suresh. Isn't saving us. It's rewriting us. You think he's in control, but he's already part of it. Suresh coughed, blood flecking his lips, but his voice was fierce. I'm not part of it. I'm holding it back. Don't you understand? If I stop now, the directive runs its course and we're extinct. Every human reduced to a display case. Ramos shook his head, his jaw set like stone. I'd rather go out fighting than hand over the keys to our future. That's not survival, that's surrender. I stepped between them, my rifle raised at Ramos, my heart slamming in my chest so hard it hurt. Nobody's shooting anybody. I said, though my own voice trembled. We're not enemies. Not here. But the curator's presence loomed above us all, its slit of blue fire widening as if amused. Conflict confirms irreconcilable error. It intuned. Preservation requires correction. The duplicates twitched, their frozen stillness cracking as some began to step forward again. We were out of time. Ramos's finger tightened on the trigger. I saw it, the decision written in his face, the stubborn rage that no words could melt. He wasn't bluffing. He was going to kill Suresh. I didn't think. I moved. My rifle barked once, the shot ripping through the air like thunder. Ramos's eyes went wide, his body jerking as the round struck him square in the shoulder. He crashed to the floor with a scream of pain, his weapon clattering across the chamber. For a heartbeat silence. Then he looked up at me, betrayal carved into his face deeper than the wound. Mara, you chose him over me. I swallowed hard, lowering my weapon. My hands shook. I chose humanity. His expression hardened, his pain twisting into fury. No, you chose to gamble it all on a fantasy. Suresh let out a strangled gasp, drawing our attention back to the console. His body convulsed, glowing cracks spidering across his arms and neck as the alien symbols swirled faster. The chamber shook violently, the duplicates collapsing like puppets with cut strings. It's working, he cried out, voice raw with agony. I'm rewriting it, the extinction order. It's unraveling. A curator tilted its head, its burning eye narrowing. Deviation detected. Preservation attempt unauthorized. A beam of searing blue light lanced from its body, striking Suresh in the chest. He screamed, his body arching violently, smoke rising from his skin. No, I shouted, sprinting forward. I tried to drag him away, but the energy surged like a living current. My hands burned at the touch. Mara, don't! His eyes, glowing now, locked on mine with an intensity that stole my breath. You have to finish it. His hands slipped from the console, but the glyphs remained alive, whirling in the air like 1,000 stars waiting for someone to seize them. I staggered, torn between holding him and reaching for the controls. Behind me, Ramos forced himself upright, clutching his wound, his face twisted with hate and despair. If you touch that console, you damn us all, he rasped. His uninjured hand groped blindly until it found his rifle again. And there it was, the choice again. Over and over, this place drove us into corners where no answer was clean. Suresh gasped, blood bubbling in his throat. Please, Mara, don't let me die for nothing. Ramos leveled his rifle with his good arm, aimed not at me this time, but directly at the core itself. One shot, Captain. One shot and it all ends. No more curator, no more extinction directive, just us. The chamber trembled harder, alarm screeching in alien tones. The curator spread its arms like wings, voice booming with finality. Excision imminent, extinction or preservation. I stood in the middle, weapon raised, my heart hammering like a trapped animal. Suresh lay at my feet, begging for me to finish what he started. Ramos stood behind me, ready to destroy everything in one pull of the trigger. And for the first time, I realized there might not be a way to save us all. Someone was going to die. Someone had to die. The chamber quaked like the belly of a dying beast, its walls splitting with threads of blue fire. Sparks rained from the ceiling and the air smelled of ozone and burning flesh. The countdown in my visor ticked down like a death knell, 198, 197. Suresh lay gasping at my feet, his glowing veins dimming as the curator's beam faded. His blood pooled black in the strange light, but his hand still clawed toward the console, desperate. Mara, please. Finish it. Behind me, Ramos staggered upright, clutching his wounded shoulder, his face pale but furious. He leveled his rifle at the core, his eyes locked with mine. Don't you dare. If you finish his work, you'll rewrite everything we are. You'll hand our future to that machine. The curator's voice thundered, filling every corner of the chamber. Final decision required. Extinction or preservation. Confirm. The duplicates shuddered, twitching as if waiting for their cue. The chamber itself seemed to hold its breath, as though the universe was listening. I raised my weapon, torn between both men, torn between both futures. Ramos, I said, my throat raw. What if he's right? What if this is our only chance? His eyes hardened. And what if he's wrong? You want to gamble billions of lives on one dying scientist's guess? I won't let you. He steadied his weapon, finger on the trigger. One shot. We walk away alive. That's all that matters. Suresh coughed violently, his eyes rolling back before snapping toward me with sudden clarity. Listen to me, Mara. If he destroys the core, we're not alive. We're ghosts. The galaxy will never know we were here. Humanity will be erased, not by war, not by disaster, but by silence. I froze. The truth of it sank into me like a blade. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about whether humanity's story would mean anything at all. The curator tilted its head, its voice now a whisper, almost reverent. Specimen Mara Hale, Captain. Confirmed decision. My hands trembled. The weight of history, of every soul alive and every one yet unborn, pressed down on me. I had seconds to decide, and then Ramos moved. He swung his rifle toward the core, eyes blazing. No more games. Time slowed. I saw his finger tighten. I saw Suresh's hand twitch against the console, his dying body convulsing as if summoning his last breath to plead again. And I knew. Hesitation meant death for us all. I fired. The blast tore through the chamber, deafening. Ramos's body jerked violently as the round struck him in the chest. His rifle flew from his hands, clattering across the floor. He collapsed to his knees, shock etched across his face. Mara. His voice was broken, almost childlike. You chose him. Blood bubbled from his lips. His eyes burned into mine, full of betrayal, full of hurt. Then the light faded. He toppled forward, motionless. My rifle clattered from my hands. My chest heaved, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. Suresh rasped weakly, his voice a ghost. You did what had to be done. Now finish it. I stumbled toward the console. The glyphs still swirled in the air, shimmering like living constellations. My hands hovered, shaking violently. The curator loomed above me, its blue eye blazing. Decision confirmed. Preservation selected. Input required. I slammed my palms into the glyphs. Instantly, a surge of fire ripped up my arms, through my chest, searing every nerve. My vision blurred as alien knowledge poured into my mind, an ocean of symbols and directives. 1,000 civilizations cataloged in a single breath. I screamed, but I didn't let go. The extinction directive unraveled before me, a script of death written into the stars. My thoughts clawed at it, tearing it apart, rewriting line by line. Humanity status alive, status enduring, status unfinished. The chamber roared, the core flaring brighter than a sun. The duplicates collapsed in unison, their bodies dissolving into dust. The curator's form shuddered, its voice trembling for the first time. Directive compromised. Identity altered. Outcome uncertain. And then the light consumed everything. When I could see again, I was on my knees, gasping for air. The console was dead, its symbols gone. Suresh lay still beside me, his eyes closed, his body finally at rest. Ramos's body lay only a few feet away, his face frozen in betrayal. The chamber was silent. The curator was gone. But above me, the core still pulsed, slower now, like a heartbeat at rest, waiting. Watching, I whispered into the silence, my voice barely audible. What have I done? The visor blinked 01000, and then it reset 999. The cycle had begun again. But this time humanity was written into it, for better or for worse. The silence after the storm was unbearable. No alarms, no horde of duplicates. Just the faint hum of the alien core, its glow reduced to a steady, rhythmic pulse, like the heart of something patient, waiting. Suresh lay motionless, his glowing veins faded to lifeless blue scars. He had given everything, mind, body, and soul, to break the extinction directive. I reached out and closed his eyes, whispering, "You're remembered. I promise you that." Ramos's body was slumped near the far wall, his face twisted in a final expression of disbelief. I couldn't look at him for long. The image carved itself into me like a wound that would never heal. I'd killed a soldier, a friend, maybe even the only voice of reason in this nightmare. I was alone. The curator was gone, but its presence lingered in the chamber like a shadow that refused to fade. And then the console flickered back to life. New glyphs appeared, not alien this time, but painfully familiar. Words, in English, specimen human, status preserved, display prepared. My blood ran cold. The floor shifted beneath me, panels rearranging, lifting. Walls unfolded like petals around the core, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. My heart pounded as I staggered toward it, weapon raised though I already knew it would be useless. Inside, the light dimmed to a soft, museum-like glow. Glass cases lined the walls, filled with artifacts. Familiar ones. A child's teddy bear, a cracked photograph of a family at the beach, a soldier's helmet with the American flag painted on it, a Bible, a baseball. The pieces of humanity's story, stolen from Earth, laid out like relics of a species that had already died. And at the center of the chamber, I froze. Encased in glass was a figure, me. My chest locked, my lungs forgetting how to breathe. The figure was perfect, my own face, my own body, captured in chilling detail. Eyes closed as though asleep. A plaque beneath the display read, Homo sapiens. Extinct final specimen. Captain Mara Hale. I staggered backward, bile rising in my throat. No, this isn't real. But it was. The museum hadn't just recorded humanity. It had anticipated our end. Even rewriting the directive hadn't changed the outcome, only delayed it or folded us into some larger design. The curator's voice returned, soft this time, almost compassionate. Preservation complete. Memory secured. Species will endure as record. I clenched my fists, rage boiling up through the grief. We're not extinct. Not yet. Do you hear me? We're alive! We fight, we love, we fail, we endure. That's more than a display case. The pulse of the core quickened as if responding. Survival uncertain. Memory eternal. I stared at my duplicate in the glass, my own lifeless face staring back at me, and I realized the cruel truth. Preservation wasn't survival, it was imprisonment. The museum had rewritten the cycle, but at a cost. Humanity would not vanish, but it might never truly live free again. Tears burned my eyes as I turned away. My boots echoed in the dead silence of the museum, past the glass case that bore my name, past the relics of humanity toward the docking bay. When I reached the airlock, the visor blinked again. 999 to 998. The countdown had restarted. A new cycle had begun. And though humanity was no longer scheduled for extinction, the museum would still watch, still catalog, still wait for the moment when we stumbled again. The stars outside the viewport were cold and endless. I whispered into the void, not knowing if anyone, or anything, could hear. We're not a display. We're not finished. While I set the course for Earth, the weight of truth pressing down on me like the gravity of a dying sun. When I returned, what would I tell them? That we'd been saved. That we'd been remembered. That our future now belonged to something that believed we were already gone. The hum of the engines answered for me, low and steady. Maybe that was the point. Maybe survival wasn't about winning or escaping. Maybe it was about defiance. I sat back in the pilot's seat, my reflection merging with the stars beyond the glass. My face, alive and breathing, stared back at me. Not the one in the museum, not the one frozen in glass. Me, and for as long as I drew breath, I would prove them wrong. Humanity wasn't extinct. Not yet.